Aida, welcome.
Thank you so much, Svetlana. Thank you for the introductions. Hi, everyone. It's my honor and pleasure to be presenting to you here today. Thank you for still being here. So I will be, in the next 15 minutes, I'll be focusing on technology trends that we see in talent acquisition, primarily in the times of the pandemic. So I'll start with a brief introduction of myself. Afterwards, we'll move into the challenges that we see a lot of our customers are currently facing. And I will tell you a little bit more and in detail, a little bit about the details and about the trends and the new technology that is really, really needed during the time of the pandemic of ours. So afterwards, I will also share with you the real-life case studies from the fellow practitioners and the customers of XOR. And during my presentation, please feel free to shoot any questions that you have to the chat window. So yeah, let's start. So I will start with a brief introduction of myself. So I actually have been working as a talent acquisition practitioner for nearly a decade before I founded the company. And the company itself was born out of my personal pain. In terms of XOR, XOR is a Silicon Valley-based startup. We're headquartered in San Francisco, California, but we have the roots in Moldova. We're really, really proud to be a member of AmCham. And we have the largest back office with the engineering team, with the lead generation team, and the support team based out of Moldova. But I would normally be based out of San Francisco, but luckily for me, I moved once the lockdown started. Moved back to Moldova. That's where I'm at. So we've been around since 2016. We currently serve over 200 customers in 23 countries of the world, including the well-known brands like Cisco, IKEA, McDonald's, Manpower Group, ExxonMobil, and many, many others. So in terms of the product, XOR is a communication platform. What we do is we help our customers to hire the best talent much more efficiently by, on one hand, giving them the opportunity to utilize the alternative mediums of communication. So instead of only phone calling or emailing the candidates as usual, you can also video conference with your candidates, you can phone call your candidates, you can communicate with them over the SMS, over the WhatsApp, over the Viber, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, you name it. This is really important because it drives the engagement of the candidate as well as the speed of the responses. So on average, 40 to 46% of the candidates respond to you within only 15 minutes if you're SMSing them or if you're WhatsApping them, compared to 3% over the period of a couple of days over the email. This is why it's important. So on the other hand, we utilize artificial intelligence and AI-powered virtual assistants or chatbots that help our customers to automate the most routine and repetitive processes in recruiting. So think of initial engagement with the candidates that are willing to apply for a role, automated screening of those candidates, and helping them to book the meeting on the recruiter's calendar. Answering frequently asked questions of the candidates, or also re-engagement and reactivation of the passive candidate database that you already have in your talent community. Delivering then personalized announcement of new job opportunities, finding out whether or not those candidates would be interested in learning more about the roles, and afterwards connecting them to the recruiter. So this is a little bit, and again, the company was born out of my personal pain because prior to founding this company, I've been working as a talent acquisition practitioner for a really, really long time. And being a practitioner, I've just noticed that up to 3/4 of my working hours every day, I would spend on routine and repetitive tasks. This is why when the new technology of the chatbot just came into media spotlight, we joined my efforts with my technical co-founder and started this company. All right, on to the next slide. All right, so it's a very well-known fact that during the last 9 months, the whole world has been really living in a very new reality. And once the pandemic hit us in March and April, the whole world, the industries actually separated into 4 different buckets from what we see. Some of the companies actually needed to hire even more people. For example, delivery services, online retailers like Amazon opened up 75,000 more of the jobs. Healthcare companies needed to hire at a higher pace. Some companies, especially in the essential businesses, still needed to maintain their hiring needs and their hiring pace, but they were facing very new challenge how they can virtualize and make the recruiting as much of the remote as they possibly can. Of course, unfortunately, some of our customers experience the hiring freezes. Some of them are still experiencing them up until the first quarter of the next year. So yeah, and most affected industries like hospitality, tourism, airlines, of course, had to lay off a ton of people. So what it actually cost us in. If you please, the next slide. Thank you. So the three main challenges that we defined, and the entire experience that I'm going to be sharing with you is coming firsthand from the conversation with the customers across the globe right now. So recruiters actually needed to make the recruiting virtual and remote. It means not only to purchase or adapt the infrastructure, but it also includes the creation of the new internal policies for them, and then, you know, how we can actually, since the social distancing rules are in place, how we can make those recruiting virtual and remote. Okay, second of all, how we can actually utilize the technology in order to streamline the application process and make the hiring as fast as we possibly can with the use of technology, still maintaining an amazing candidate experience, okay? And also, since not a lot of people have the computers at home, unfortunately, everybody has their phones, of course, but with us not being able to access, let's say, public libraries within access to the computers, recruiters had to ensure, and the talent acquisition leaders had to ensure that the experience of the candidates is very, very mobile friendly, mobile first, and accessible for all the candidates that are willing to apply for a role. All right, moving on. Okay, so the first trend that's been a great hit of this year, and nobody really cared about this too much prior to March of this year, I would say would be the virtual career fairs. Everybody is well aware of the career fairs, standard one, when you are gathering in the lobby of a hotel and you set up the booths, and the recruiters in every booth actually are communicating with the candidates. Letting them to learn a little bit more about working for the company, about the specific roles, accepting the paper application, telling them more about the roles available in the company. So since we cannot really do this anymore, the virtual career fairs has been something that everybody's been greatly interested in recently. So the way it works is you set up a website with a virtual career map, when those booths can be either representing different brands, or they can be, if it's virtual career fairs for the specific enterprise company or the employer, those booths can actually represent either different locations or the branches of the company or the different departments of the company. For example, here's the vacancy for engineering, sales, marketing, support, and so on and so forth. So the way it works is the candidates are browsing through the virtual career fair, they're picking themselves the booth, they're clicking on booths, and afterwards they can chat with the virtual concierge first, where the virtual concierge will collect their contact information, will screen them for a role to make sure they're making a good fit if it's a need. And afterwards, the recruiters, on the other hand, can connect and live chat with the candidates, or video conference with them, or phone call with them. So this is something that's been a great success of this year. So if you haven't looked into the virtual career fairs yet, so both the organizers of the events or the, let's say, communities, organizations like, let's say, AmCham, pretty much set up virtual career fairs for all of their participants. Or if you are an employer and you haven't really been looking into the virtual career space, I would highly suggest that please consider this, because it's been a great success. A lot of the candidates love it. It's a new way of thinking about your job board pretty much, but in a more interactive way, where every single candidate will receive feedback, whether it's a 24/7 or it's a live event when the recruiters and the candidates are logging in at the same time. All right, so the next trend would be how we can actually utilize the virtual assistants and the text-based or messaging-based communication with the candidates in order to decrease the time to hire and then simplify the recruiter's life. So the way it works is whenever the candidates are willing to apply for roles of the company, either from online sources would be the job boards, it would be the company's own career site, it will also be social media job ad campaigns, or even if the candidate wants to apply from the offline sources, let's say seeing a banner in the grocery store saying, we're hiring, if you want to work for us, please scan this QR code or send us the text, apply to this particular phone number. So once the candidates are ready to apply, and we're talking about the active candidates that are applying proactively, right? So what happens is the chatbot, the virtual assistant pops up and starts engaging them into conversation. So they can easily handle any of the questions they might have about the role, about the company, and afterwards it can screen the candidate and capture the application in a chat form. So unlike your standard like mobile and friendly, really long web application forms, the communication with the virtual assistant will only take the candidate 3 to 3.5 minutes. So during this conversation, the virtual assistant will ensure that this candidate actually meets all of the criteria for this particular role, because as all of us know, up to 90 to 95% of all the candidates applying for roles don't make a good fit, unfortunately. So the virtual assistant will ask them about how many years of experience do they have in this field, what's their highest level of education, whether or not they're legally authorized to work in the country without the visa support, if it's important, and everything pretty much that are mandatory requirements for a role. Afterwards, if the candidate meets all of the criteria, then the virtual assistant will help them to book the meeting on the recruiter's calendar, because it is integrated with the recruiter's calendar so that it knows their availability, preferences, and pretty much for the recruiters, it's a complete game changer. So they come to work not to stacks and stacks of resume that they need to screen and process manually to find out who of those candidates that applied they're willing to talk to, and afterwards, go back and forth over the email, trying to schedule the meeting, or call them to ask the same questions, to answer the same questions. Instead of this, the recruiters come to work in the morning, Monday morning, whatever, to their calendar filled with the list of the candidates that were pre-qualified and pre-scheduled for a meeting or a phone call with a recruiter, which is absolutely amazing. And I'll share a couple of case studies that we have in that particular instance, because it significantly decreases the time to hire while still maintaining over 90% of the candidates' NPS score. This is amazing. All right, moving on to the next trend. And of course, since we cannot really get together in the same room anymore, unfortunately, the video conferencing tools have been a great hit and in a great demand this year. So video conferencing tools can be of two different types. Important one. So the one that everybody is used to pretty much in the last 9 months is getting together with the candidates online, either over the Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, WhatsApp, whatever other tool you're using. You can also use XOR video conferencing tool, which is actually pretty awesome. So you're getting together with the candidates, you're screening them, phone screening them, video conferencing with them, pretty much organize the events using some sort of a solution. But there is also a second type of the video interviews. It will be called asynchronous video interview. So that means that you do not necessarily need to get together online with the candidate at the same very time. Instead of that, during the application process, the virtual assistant can actually request the candidate to record a little video of like up to 30 seconds of them self-introductions, or answering to any of the questions that you would like to listen to, so that you can actually see how the candidate presents themselves, how they talk, and then their opinion on the crucially important things for you. So that you can watch those videos, they can record it at their own pace, being at home, at their pajamas, 9 p.m. in the afternoon on Sunday, and you can watch them at your spare time before you actually decide whether or not you are willing to move forward with this particular person, especially if it's a customer-facing role like receptionist at the hotel or a sales representative. All right, moving on. So right now, I will share a couple of case studies with you, with our awesome customers. The first one would be IKEA. So IKEA, we've been working with them for over 3 years at the moment. So the most important challenge for them used to be that whenever the new candidates just came into offline application center, they had to fill out the really long, really unfriendly paper application form, right? So a lot of the candidates didn't complete this application, so they were lacking in the amount of the candidates that were applying. So instead of this, what they have done is they've implemented the job kiosks. Pretty much job kiosk is a little iPad on a stand. When all of the candidates that were interested in learning more about the roles for the company or apply for a job actually can just come and chat with the virtual assistant for a couple of minutes to pick themselves the the IKEA store that was closest to their home, to pick themselves the job that is currently available, go through a short screening process, and then set up the meeting with the recruiter. Where all this with under 5 minutes. So their amount of the applications that have started to be compared to the benchmark, increased 66%, which is amazing for them. And right now, they're actually able to complete their hiring needs. And the second use case that I would like to share with you is a Nightlight Pediatric in the US. So this particular company has been, since the nurses, like, you know, if you don't hire the nurse for the 3 days, they're going to the competitors. You cannot really lose the best talent right there. So the way they've done it, they actually put the virtual assistant on top of the application form so that every single candidate that was browsing through the company career site and were interested in learning more about the role got to talk to the virtual assistant that immediately screened them and helped them to book the meeting on the recruiter's calendar the same very day. So for this particular company, the time to hire has decreased by 60%, which has been like, you know, right now it's just 3 days compared to 7 days that it's been prior. So yeah. So this would be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much again for having me. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them.